Okay, back with the next part. We're on the downhill run now, aren't we? Find the midpoint of the line segment with the given endpoints. Remember, your midpoint is just the average of your x-coordinates, x1 plus x2, divided by 2, together with the average of the y-coordinates, y1 plus y2, divided by 2. So that makes this pretty easy, doesn't it? So if we're calling the midpoint M, it's going to be the point x1 plus x2, 4 plus negative 1, which just be 4 minus 1 divided by 2, and 6 plus 5 divided by 2. So the midpoint is 4 divided by 1, that's 3 over 2, 4 minus 1 is 3, and 6 and 5 is 11 over 2. 1.5, 5.5, or just leave them like that. I think it's probably easier like that myself. Next one, slightly different question, but deceptively similar. Careful you don't get caught out. Given the midpoint and one endpoint, find the other endpoint. Well, let's call this endpoint x1, y1. So I'm going to be looking for x2 and y2. So the x-coordinate of the midpoint, 5, that's going to be made up of negative 8 plus the other x-coordinate divided by 2. And now we just rearrange to find x2, so I multiply by 2. I've got 10 equals negative 8 plus x2. Adding 8 to each side, I've got 18 equals x2. Doing the same for the second y-coordinate. So the midpoint is negative 6. And that's going to be equal to 4 plus the other y-coordinate divided by 2. Rearrange and solve. Multiplying by negative 2, I get, by positive 2, I get negative 12 equals 4 plus y over 2. Subtracting 4, negative 16 equals y2. Therefore, the required point is 18, negative 16. And you can quickly check it. 18 plus negative 8, well, that's 10 divided by 2 is 5. That's good. Negative 16 plus 4 is negative 12 divided by 2, negative 6. You know you're on a winner, don't you? Back to just finding a midpoint. I thought I'd give you some decimals and fractions because it's always good practice for you. So 4 and 1/9, that's 36 plus 1, 37 over 9. Plus 1 1/4, that's 4 quarters plus another quarter is 5 quarters. So I've got all of that divided by 2. And then negative 1 and 2/7. Well, 7 sevenths and 2 more, that's negative 9 over 7 plus negative 1 over 5, all divided by 2. What are we going to do here? We're going to write them with common denominators, aren't we? 9 and 4 both go into 36, so this is going to be 4 times 37, 148, plus 9 5s are 45, over 36, still being divided by 2, which is the same as multiplying by 1/2, isn't it? It's just going to make it a little bit easier to deal with. This second one, 7 and 5, both go into 35, so this fraction gets multiplied by 5 over 5. That's negative 45 over 35. Plus this one gets multiplied by 7 over 7, negative 7 over 35, and again, all divided by 2, which is the same as multiplying by 1/2. And there we have it. M is going to equal 148 plus 45, 193, divided by 2 times 36 is 72. And negative 45 minus another 7, negative 52 over 70. Well, there's a little bit of simplifying we can do there. The midpoint is going to be 193 over 72. And these were both even, weren't they? So that's going to be negative 26 over 35. Messy, but doable. Get comfortable working with fractions. They're not that hard. Just takes a little bit of confidence and practice. You've certainly got time to do that. Let's have a go at 80 over here. Just some decimals. So my midpoint, sum of my 2x coordinates, 9.5 plus 8.3, all divided by 2, and the sum of the 2 y coordinates, 4 plus 2.1 divided by 2. What have we got? 17.8 divided by 2 and 6.1 divided by 2. A little bit of using your brain. Well, it's just under 2 nines, it'd be 18, so that looks like it's about 8.9 to me. Oh, I've resized again. I'm so magical. I can do it without even trying. And 6.1 when I divide it by 2, 3.05. They are your coordinates there. Let's get that size back to something you might be able to read. Hopefully you can see that now. Given the midpoint and one endpoint, for some reason I seem to put that question in there a couple of times. That's okay. Doesn't hurt to practice a little bit more, does it? Find the other endpoint. So I'm going to have, for my x2, I'm going to have 7.92 plus my other x coordinate divided by 2. That gives me negative 4.4. And the second equation, 0.543 plus the other y coordinate. When I divide it by 2, that gives me the y coordinate, the midpoint, which is negative 3.4. Now it's just a little bit of rearranging equations and a little bit of mental maths, which is good for all of you. So I'm going to multiply by 2 first. So I've got 7.92 plus x2 equals negative 8.8. I've got to subtract the 7.92. So x2 is going to be negative 8 minus another 7, negative 15.92 minus 0.8, negative 16.72. And for y2, the y coordinate of the second point, the other endpoint, and multiply. Just divide it up there in case you're getting confused. Multiply by 2 first, and I've got 0.543 plus y2 equals negative 6.8. I now need to subtract the 0.543. Well, if I subtract 0.2, I'm going to be at negative 7, and then it'll be 343. So negative 7.343. So the required point, negative 16.72, negative 7.343. That's midpoint, and practice doing that both for finding the endpoint or a midpoint. Hope that helps. We are going to come back with some basic stats. You should find that pretty easy, I think. Catch you in the next video.